Well, should government then interfere in industry, and should it interfere by either trying to create winners or keeping losers going? Well, that's an interesting question, and the answer is probably no, but one has to be a little bit more sophisticated than that. Let's deal with the positive thing first. Should government go out there and say do X, Y, Z because that's the future? No. Government has no idea what the future is going to be like. Government cannot pick winners. What government can do is create a map and say, look, here are all the things that we think will happen. You know, you pick where you think it will go. But it's the firm at the end of the day who made the choice, and it's the firm that is responsible for its own life and its own success. Now let's move over to the negative side. So you have a firm in decline. You know, should you save it? Well, actually, no, you shouldn't. This is one of these difficult things, because if a firm of 5 people keel over, nobody cares. Well, of course the people inside it does, but government doesn't. But if a firm with 50,000 employed keel over, suddenly governments worry. And one can understand why, although the principle is exactly the same. Now, all type of firms are having a life cycle. You know, they started at some point in time, they then grow and they mature and then decline and then they die. You know, but the average lifespan of a company under the New York Stock Exchange is somewhere in the vicinity of 45 years. So it's somewhat shorter than our lifespan as human beings. So we are to expect that firms will die. And of course there is a statistical distribution. Now, when you look at these things, you have to, as a firm, you shouldn't look at a firm, you should look at groups of firms. So we can call it industries or clusters or whatever we want. But some of these clusters are then declining. And as they start to decline, you have to ask yourself as a government, why are they declining? Are they declining because they have no future? Or are they declining because they allow themselves to slip behind in an area which is inherently a positive area? So in the first case, where they actually are in the declining area, they can be very, very good companies, but they are in the declining domain. You need to assist these firms to transform into other areas. You know, it doesn't matter whether they are transforming out of defense or out of automotive or whatever it is that is a difficult domains to be in. They have to then transform into supply chain which has growth. I don't know, be that medical instruments or whatever it may be. Again, it's up to the firm to choose. But government needs to encourage this transformation activity, because without that transformation, these companies will die. And that in itself is not a bad thing, but it will have huge implications for unemployment and the follow-on effects that we spoke about earlier. The second group of firms are the ones that are declining because they've gone lazy or lost the plot in this sense. And what that means that these firms need to be encouraged to rejuvenate, be that they, usually involving some form of new knowledge or technology being embodied. You know, one of those industry one could possibly make a case for here in South Australia is the wine industry. You know, at some point in time you surprised the world with an incredibly advanced and sophisticated wine industry which had great growth and great opportunities. And then you more or less lost the plot. Partly got more competition and partly you stopped developing your knowledge, your sophistication of management and your activities. And you started to shoot yourself in the foot by dumping large amounts of not so very good wine on the market, giving you bad name, engaging in supply chains with retailers where you allowed yourself to be bargained down and become clean skins and other types of branded products. So there is a rejuvenation necessary in these type of industries. Then of course you have the other positive ones. You need to grow firms where you have some of them, but they are too small. For example, in South Australia, the medical instrumentation issue, where there are huge opportunities. And then you need to build firms in domains where you have all the ingredients, but you have no firms. And there are areas of functional food and other type of issues where you could do things in South Australia. And of course you then need to have a lot of entrepreneurial activities with startups in order to compensate for what will be a decline in the other end, because there always will be these type of things. So this balanced look at an industrial landscape, having a view saying, well, those type of firms are here and those type of firms are here. And this is how we as a government should encourage change boundary conditions, have a viewpoint on, provide information relating to these things. That is normally what we call an industry policy. And it is important that such an industry policy is developed. And I'd like to say again, an industry policy is not about picking winners. It is solely to ensure that we have some tools that will enable firms to have self-help and to enable firms to see opportunities that small firms are not necessarily able to see on their own.